Ready to see, but you know. Welcome to my presentation. Good opening, isn't it? Alright. Now to actually begin it. Can a few of you raise your hands and give me your favorite crime dramas? Anything like this? Nice. Good one. That's also a good one. Also, they're all good, really. But anyway, crime drama. The genre of crime drama is one of the more popular ones. And though it hasn't been a staple of television for its entire lifetime, the fact that it has existed since 1948. Yes, 1948. Only 7 years after stations first began broadcasting, shows how long-lived and successful it has been. But why am I talking about this? And probably a more important question, why am I wearing this? Well, to answer the first question. So these shows are popular, especially today, and even more especially in the early 2000s, following the release of CSI Crime Scene Investigation, and well, everything else after it. This means that, well, a lot of people have watched them, kind of proven by the fact that a lot of you share your own favorites with me. What does this mean? Well, even though these shows are quite obviously fictional and not entirely accurate, there's a theory that has been spoken of, saying that people who watch these television shows, aka pretty much everyone at this point, mistakenly assume that all of the things are shown are absolutely 101% correct. Because of this, it is said that people, when called to jury duty, expect much more physical evidence than is really needed, or think that blurry surveillance photos can be zoomed in and enhanced. Very quality picture there. This sounds serious, doesn't it? Just imagine the courts full of clueless and misinformed jurors, almost all of the cases getting a falsely determined verdict, and fire raining down from the sky! Alright, maybe it isn't that serious. Actually, it isn't even close. Especially not to the last one. So, yes, indeed, there was a brief moment of time where lawyers started to take advantage of the public's newfound awareness by inquiring about unneeded physical evidence, which could be pretty much anything, simply depending on the situation. For example, as one source put it, they were asked if they had dusted the lawn for prints. How do you even do that? I mean, yeah, maybe you could get a print off of a pristine blade of grass, but even then it would look like that. Yeah, what a great idea, definitely not a waste of time. Speaking of time, I had said brief moment of time. Because, well, this effect didn't actually last that long. Everyone figured out what the lawyers were doing and subsequently began covering their, well, you know. Even if it didn't make much sense to check for physical evidence, either due to the specific crime or other surrounding circumstances, they began to check for it. Then it would be documented that either, as expected, nothing was found, or something actually was found. And that said documentation, which usually is quite a lot of it, would be there to prove that there was indeed an inquiry made. This basically cancels out the effect, making everything downside. So, this wasn't a serious issue. Is the presentation over? Was my research just done for nothing? Well, No. You see, this whole jurors knowing nothing about anything thing may have been the most commonly thought of, but isn't actually the only part of the CSI effect. There are not one, but two more widely occurring, or widely documented ones. One of those, which is admittedly starting to wane, is an increase of forensic science-related courses in colleges and other higher institutes of education. To be specific, one study reported a 70% increase in the 10 years between 1998 and 2008. Of course, again, considering CSI crime scene investigation, the show that seemed to have sparked pretty much all of this, first aired in the late 2000s, it's pretty easy to see that correlation. This isn't all, though. You see, before this said show was released, the normal populace didn't really care that much about forensic science. After it was released, though, awareness and interest shot through the roof, inadvertently increasing the number of people who wanted to pursue related careers. Like me. Now, even though this seems like a harmless or even maybe beneficial thing, it does actually have a few negative effects. The main two of these are a reduction of people going into the more common fields, we usually refer to any other more versatile science fields like biology or chemistry, as well as an oversaturation of forensic scientists with not enough job openings. As with the first portion of the effect, I stated that this was beginning to wane, actually. The number of courses has begun to go down, as have the number of people newly interested in pursuing the field professionally. But, as for the third portion of the CSI effect, well, sadly, no. Imagine you were working at some random burger joint, like this one. For some unknown reason, there are tons of orders coming in. Sure, you get one order finished, but 4 more replace it. This isn't good, obviously. Well, now replace those burger orders with DNA samples, multiply that by about 77,000, and turn the burgers themselves into finalized tests. And that's pretty much what's happening. Of course, the two situations are very different, as one deals with food and the other deals with incredibly sensitive evidence, but both deal with backlogged orders. According to one source, any sample remaining untested for 30 days is counted as backlogged. The number of samples that could fit in this category as of 2017 was approximately 308,000. You can compare that to 111,647 taken at the end of 2009 and 38,227 taken at the end of 2005. It isn't very hard to see how serious this is. I mean, that's an increase of about 706% over only 12 years. That's crazy. This definitely is important, but the thing is, this backlog issue and the CSI effect technically aren't directly related, as the former is more specifically caused by the ever-increasing ease in which DNA evidence can be acquired. For example, recent advancements in forensic science allow samples to be collected and analyzed right from an object the suspect touched. Yes, that means if one of you stabbed someone, smeared your fingerprints so they weren't analyzable, and somehow cleaned up every other lead, they'd be able to get your good old genetic code right off that knife's handle. Sounds cool, right? Unless you're a criminal, of course. But that isn't what we're talking about right now. Back to the original topic, all of these advancements led to technicians test, well, seemingly everything at a scene. What? Sorry. There we go. You, of course, being that every swab taken is stored separately, you end up with a lot of things to test. As science advances, that gigantic 6-digit number I showed you earlier will continue going up. Maybe even hitting 7 digits one day. Yay. Bet I'll have fun with that if I keep going down this career path. Oh boy. So, how exactly is this related to the CSI effect, if not directly? Well, as I said before, the introduction of popular forensic science-based crime dramas steeply increased public awareness and interest in the related topics. Said interest resulted in more funding and therefore more development. This then made it easier to collect DNA, and now we have a massive backlog. Simple. So, now that you know about the CSI effect, or really effects, but do you know what's portrayed wrong in pop culture? There are some more obvious points you've probably raised an eyebrow at, such as the aforementioned zoom into hands. But many things are either too small or people don't care enough to notice them. For example, you probably aren't going to scrutinize the type of vehicle the main characters are driving while watching CSI Miami. Of course, I will, but that's to be expected at this point. Speaking of that, let's talk about these cars. As you can see in this wonderful photo behind me, that's a Hummer. In the show, there's not just one, but a whole fleet of these things, mostly driven by crime scene personnel. Sure, they definitely are nice cars, but they're a bit too nice. You see, most crime scene laboratories are quite small and don't exactly have a large budget. Buying just one of these would probably put them in incredible debt. On top of that, these aren't exactly built to serve as specialized CSI vehicles. If you're going to look at things realistically, you'll probably see things like this, or maybe even this. Of course, the latter would probably only appear in larger and more funded departments, while the former is more relatively common. Speaking of that first photo, looks kind of similar to another vehicle. Kind of like an ambulance. Yeah, most of these are actually just cycled ambulances, just fitted out with the necessary equipment and given a new paint job. Definitely not fancy, but guess what? It's cheap and functional. Definitely compared to a fleet of Hummers. Cars are cool, I guess, but they don't really have much to do with the investigation itself. What does, though? Evidence collection. This is the backbone of any good case and is actually kind of complicated. Of course, you can't just stroll into an active crime scene and start picking stuff up like you do in a certain video game. Look, I do not care if it could be an ultra-important or even super special clue. You cannot just take it without reporting it. Actually, there are many different procedures and miscellaneous checks that one must do before even setting foot in the scene. For one, you must be wearing the proper attire. This is not correct. Look, if I were wearing an expensive suit and sunglasses that probably cost more than most people's monthly income, I'd rather not kneel right next to a dead body. And touch it? Without wearing gloves? God forbid. And what if you have, let's say, cat hair, courtesy of your furry friend at home, on you, and you transfer some of that onto the body, or even just the scene in general? You wouldn't want your precious feline to be arrested for murder, would you? Of course not. So you gotta wear something like this. Of course, for more specialized situations, or for more dangerous situations, there are more specialized outfits, but what I'm wearing, plus the stuff that I took off, of course, is the simplest kind of personal protective equipment, or PPE for short. These are made to both protect the wearer from any kind of basic contaminant, as well as protecting the scene from anything the technician could accidentally deposit. So, you're happy that there aren't any dead people juices on your fancy outfit, and your cat is safe. It's all good. Now, let's get into some more specific topics. Even before I talked about them, all of you probably knew what DNA and fingerprints are. Hopefully you did, since, well, they're pretty widely known, with the first due to biology classes and the second due to, well, crime. Both of these things are obviously large parts of crime scene investigation and forensic science. But, are they accurately portrayed in popular culture? Well, as for DNA, there, well, isn't much to mess up. So, at the very least, it's usually shown correctly. Aside from how long it takes to process samples. If you remember me speaking about all of that backlog evidence, that affects incoming evidence as well. It has made that, as of 2010, the reported national average processing time for rushed DNA sample was about 54 days. For a bit of explanation, if somebody is given a rush order, it means that analyzing the given object is a top priority, usually because it is part of a high profile or otherwise important case. While having a pre-existing suspect means that the technicians have a sample to compare the incoming one to. Think of it like this. Giving something a rush order is kind of like sticking it in a speedy car. And having the pre-existing suspect sample is like giving that car natural. We'll be at the finish line in no time. So even though this theoretical sample is traveling as fast as it possibly can, that's still, again, about 54 days until it gets finished. Of course, this is an average, meaning that you do have some labs that complete things super fast and some that complete things even slower than this, but it's still a bit stunning. Then you look at the non-rushed, no suspect sample, and if you thought this last number was bad, look at this one. An average of 101, almost twice as much as the former one. It's great. Now, as for fingerprints. Fingerprints are cool, right? We all have them. Actually, if you can manage to see them in this low light, feel free to take a gander at this nice chart for a moment and try and figure out what you have. If you can't make them out, just commit this chart to memory or look it up later. We don't have Google for nothing, you know? Fun fact, all but 2 of my fingerprints are ulnar loops, while the 2 others are a plain whorl and a central pocket loop whorl. Good luck forging my prints, though, because indeed they are incredibly unique. But that does not mean they are easy to collect. You see, most of the time, when people think of fingerprints, they think of Latin fingerprints. These are made when someone touches a solid object, leaving a nigh invisible deposit of oils and sweat and all that fun stuff behind. The thing about this is the possibility of smearing or leaving incomplete marks. You see, if I was a burglar or something, somehow stealing stuff in the middle of my presentation, I'm not going to touch everything with the utmost carefulness, of course. Because of that, technicians will end up with a lot of incomplete or smeared prints, kind of like these. Of course, there may be a few perfectly pristine prints, but they're much, much less likely to occur. Well, with these less than perfect prints, the hand that made them may have incredibly unique ones, but the subpar quality of the transfers makes it possible to make mistakes and either not make a match or make a false one. This just shows that while in media they are presented as a 100% accurate kind of physical evidence, the real side of it is somewhat less so. Of course, they do still work, but just less than you probably thought they Another big misconception of fingerprints is how easy they are to analyze. So in many shows, you may see a technician take one, enter it into the magical automated fingerprint identification system, or AFIS for short. 2 fingerprints appear on the screen, and in mere moments, the word match appears in the center. Yeah, that obviously isn't how it works at all. Yes, AFIS is a real thing, and you obviously still use it to match fingerprints, but a much larger part of the process is done by a simple human. You see, fingerprints are incredibly complex. Comparing even 2 of them, one of which may be a slight bit smudged, cut off, or any number of things, can be incredibly difficult. Due to this, most of the computer's job is simply picking a group of similar prints, then throwing these at the technician, who then closely compares them, something the computer can't really do. Like DNA, fingerprints also take longer to analyze than are usually portrayed, in part due to the reliance on humans. From the same study that the other averages came from, a rush print averages out at about 29 days until completion. It's a bit better than before, the number for rush DNA, but compared to the usually shown number on TV, it's still pretty bad. So, I'm talking about this, but how did I even come across this topic? Well, that's a story that spans my entire career here at VNS, and, well, even before that. I've been a big fan of a few pieces of media that incorporate forensics or crime scene investigation for quite some time, with the earliest I can remember being Law & Order, Special Victims Unit. I never really tried to watch it. It would just be on, and I'd get hooked by those cold open. What was going to happen? Who was the culprit? I just needed to know. After that, I also occasionally watched CSI Miami, too, for about the same reasons. These 2 were the ones I remember the most due to the fact that they're, well, played the most often. I've seen many, many other crime shows, but these shows weren't really the final thing that sparked my professional interest in the topic. Actually, that thing isn't even a TV show. It's a video game series. You who know me are probably groaning right now, but just bear with me. So, this said game series is Ace Attorney, born after some Capcom executive looked at the youth of 2001 and said, "Do you know what these kids want to play as? Lawyers." It really is a bizarre game, and in all honesty, I don't understand how it caught on, or how I got into it. I know, right? But that isn't what we're talking about today. You're probably wondering, well, how did a game about lawyers get me into forensic science? Those 2 things are, well, quite different. And though both relate to criminal justice, you probably shouldn't find a defense attorney investigating the scene of a crime. Well, in real life at least. About half of the gameplay revolves around you, yes, you, waltzing around the scene of the crime. Taking evidence and telling no one that you took that evidence. Technically, this is legal in-game due to a specific rule stating that unregistered evidence presented must be relevant to the case and trial, but I am not here to lecture you about a fictional law system. Now, where was I? Yes, how forensic science even fits into this. So, yeah, you're snooping around, you probably shouldn't be, but you aren't really doing lab work. Well, you aren't, but there are other characters that are. One of these said characters happens to be one of my favorites, as well as highly relatable. Yeah, it sounds kind of dumb to say that the mere fact that I related to this lady pushed me to look at forensic science for a career, but that's just how it is, I guess. So, after all that, I came here And after figuring out that I could do a project on, well, pretty much anything, I, of course, did a project on forensic science and scene investigation. Even well after I finished it, it really stuck with me. And even eventually, I began to consider going into either for a career. After some thinking, forensic science was chosen over the other, and I took 2 college courses. One on an overview of the topic, and the other on safe lab procedures at Fox Valley Tech, to solidify my decision. I really enjoyed both, which made me more confident in my career path and the inevitable 4 years I will spend at college. As I had started my classes just before my junior year began, I had a thought. What if I did my senior project on forensic science? But I had already done a project on that. I can't just do the second one. So I had to think of a twist. Then I remembered reading something about this mysterious CSI effect and how fictional crime dramas impact the real world. Perfect. I remember telling Mr. DeMay, my advisor, that I already knew what I'd be doing my senior project on at the start of junior year, a whole year in advance. He told me to keep an open mind and not fully commit to the idea, as things can change. I do agree that they can, but this one specifically, as you can see, it obviously didn't. So, I started my project and began my research. Speaking of research, there's a pretty standard way of doing it during projects. Normally, what would happen is you look for sources, hopefully get those sources, and take notes on said sources. Yes, I do indeed do that, but technically that's only about half of my research. Sorry. The other half occurs when I'm writing my paper. Basically, sometimes while I'm writing, I might think, well, I'm writing about the genre of crime drama. I should look up when the first crime drama was aired on television, just to insert a little fun fact. Of course, before I began working on my project, or my paper, I had no idea, or I had no reason to research Barney Blake, his report. So I had to go off on a small expedition to find my needed information. I like this method, due to the fact that it allows me to gain sources and facts I hadn't ever thought I'd need. This was also useful during the formulation of my product, which eventually turned into a forensic science-based class. Speaking of that class, I'm going to start off this part by giving a formal apology to everyone who took this. No, it wasn't horrible. Well, you would need to ask my students to get the real answer. But, well, I had never taught a group of people, and I'm awkward. We were all awkward, really. Here, have a fun story that shows just how awkward I am. So, when I started here, I put off the new student packet until the last part of the school year, for the simple reason I had to ask a senior questions. And, well, I didn't know who the seniors were, because no one ever talks about their grade here. Either I could have walked around and asked, or done nothing, hidden the packet away in a random folder, and just completely forgot about it. Guess which one I chose? Yeah. Anyways, yeah, my class was definitely an experience. I know for a definite fact that it could have gone a lot better, but guess what? Being the incredibly awkward person I am, it was a gigantic personal success. If you would have told little ninth grader me the moment they walked into the school for the first time that they would teach a class that they somehow managed to MacGyver together in that room over there, I would have gone, what? No, what are you talking about? I don't want to do that. I'll be too afraid. Too awkward. People won't enjoy it. Ugh. And while the afraid part is definitely still true, as even this right now is incredibly nerve-wracking for me, somehow willed myself to do it. And you know what? That's fine by me. Do I care if it could have been better? Well, maybe a bit, but a lot less than you might think. Aside from being stricken by an awful case of awkwardness while teaching, I had a few other hardships along the way. During what I'd estimate to be about the first half of my project, I didn't exactly spend all the time I could have on it. Though I did indeed take notes on sources, aside from writing my paper, there were only 2 or 3 that I took notes on. Of course, one was an incredibly extensive and dense book, about this thick and maybe about this thick, aiming to provide information to writers who wanted realistic forensic science in their work. I knew I could have probably done better. Looking back on it, I feel like the main problem was the lack of a set near-future goal. Of course, I knew I wanted to finish the project, obviously, but what did I want to have done by the end of the month, or week even? I did anticipate something similar to this happening, right at the beginning of the project, so at least I knew what was going on. I will say, though, I did recover quite spectacularly from this, though this entailed me spending about 5 hours per day on the project, every school day, for about the past month and a half. I did it, though, so that makes me happy. But, before any of you new students get any funny ideas, 5 hours a day is a lot. Please don't slack off. But anyways, for this project, I did a few live experiences, which I usually don't do, so also made me happy. And all of them paid off quite nicely in some way or another. One of them was a visit to the Outagamie County Courthouse, where I sat in on 2 short, about 15-minute hearings. Sure, I had seen court proceedings on television, both live and fictional, and of course in video games, but I had never actually seen one in real life. So it was suggested I give one a visit. After working my way through the maze of corridors that is the inside of that building, I finally made it to the courtroom itself and sat down in the back viewing bench. There was a hearing that had started just before I went in, and let me tell you, walking into a live trial and having quite literally everyone stare at you was quite nerve-wracking. I was just like, don't mind me, just a high schooler in a Galaxy jacket and Jurassic Park t-shirt coming in to take notes in my flayed notebook. Despite this awkwardness, I did get a few tiny yet useful notes, as well as a kind of funny experience, when I look back on it, at least. Now, since those 2 hearings were for relatively minor offenses, I wanted something bigger, like murder. Since there are not a lot of murders around here, and it would be nigh impossible for me to get to watch the proceedings in person, I began to look up transcripts and recordings online. After some time of searching, I actually found an hour-long or so long documentary showing a good majority of clips from none other than Jeffrey Dahmer's trial, put up on YouTube. Gladly, I watched the entire thing, taking even more notes than I had on the live trial. Of course, considering he had pled guilty, the trial was relatively short, compared to, let's say, O.J. Simpson's, which lasted more than a few months. Despite this, it was still very interesting, and a useful part of my project. If you are interested in the same things I am, I would definitely suggest looking this up. Though a relatively small part of my project, I also visited the Wisconsin Supreme Court with a group of other students from here at BNS. We sat in on 2 hearings before spending a small amount of time exploring the Capitol and making a short visit to Chick-fil-A. It's pretty obvious what the highlight of that day was. Anyways, even though my topics didn't exactly fit with Supreme Court-related things, your experience was, like the county court one, incredibly interesting, and I doubt I will ever see anything like it again. In comparison to the other local hearing I saw there was one thing that was much better. I wasn't the only one being stared at. This fall, I am planning on attending Northern Michigan University, up in Marquette, Michigan. I'm beginning to work towards earning my master's in forensic biochemistry, basically just a more specific version of forensic science. After I finish my education, I plan on becoming a forensic scientist, hoping to work at any given lab, though hopefully one in Wisconsin or any surrounding states, because truly, I really do like it here. Thank you.
Does knowing all that you know now kind of ruin the shows for you?
The question is, does knowing all of this kind of ruin the shows for me? Actually, it makes it a little bit more fun. Because it turns into a game of trying to point out all of the different inconsistencies. Which, again, is actually pretty fun. I mean, yeah, if you were watching it just for the sheer, drama, it might now be a bit boring and everything might fall flat, but I don't care much about that part of it.
Where do you get that suit? Where did you get that?
The question was, where did I get the suit? I got this from one of the professors that actually taught one of the courses I went to at Oxford Tech, Mr. Lefebvre. For my class, we actually went and toured that same building that I showed up on the screen. And while we were there, he gave me a big box of just forensic-related things, like there was some caulking guns for filling in footprints in dirt, and this. I decided to wear it during my presentation because, well, spice things up a bit. It is a bit hot, though.
They spend our legal system comparing it to one basic trend. How many criminals are being exonerated for their crimes based on evidence?
So the question was comparing this real life, or our real life court system with the one in East Attorney. How many criminals would be exonerated?
Yeah.
Thank you. English is hard. Based on tampered evidence. I'm going to say 3/4 or higher. It's bad.
They don't have death row in that game, do they?
Yes, they do. The question was, do they have death row? Yes, they do.
Come on.
Yeah. It's very interesting comparing that game with real life because, I mean, obviously it isn't very based in reality, but it's still kind of interesting.
Did you start your collection?
So the question was, when did I start that big collection I had shown on the screen? So that would have been, I'd say, around April 2015 when I started that. Yeah, it's pretty impressive, isn't it? It's bad, but it is, though.
The book that was one of your main sources, you also want to talk about some of the big takeaways or chapters or sections that you had from that book?
So the question was, I had mentioned a quite extensive book that I used as one of my sources. What were some of the main takeaways from that? I'll say there was a lot on how some of the machines operated. Like, for example, a gas chromatographer, which is something that is really complicated. I don't think I can explain it right now. Look it up if you're interested. But it had a quite large description of how it worked in diagrams and things like that. It also elaborated on a lot of really specific things that I hadn't really looked into before. There was a lot that wasn't incredibly connected with my project that had more to do with crime scene investigation, which is how you focus more on the forensic science part of it. But that was also interesting because there was a lot that I hadn't seen in that part because I, again, haven't looked into that specifically.
Is Ace Attorney the only, like, I guess, murder-based game that you researched, I guess?
The question was, was Ace Attorney the only murder-based game I researched? Yes, it was. I'm guessing you're thinking about Danganronpa?
Yeah.
Yes. I haven't played that. I know about it a little bit. Yes, yeah. Oh, man. Yeah, that's
started on another game.
Yeah. I mean that I did know about that game, but I know it's even less immersive or related to reality than Ace Attorney, so it wouldn't have gained me much from looking into it. But yes, it was the only murder-based game.
How much does that collection cost?
I don't want to say that. The question was, how much did that collection cost? I'll answer with no comment.
What's one piece of advice you give to students who are looking into forensics?
The question was, what's one piece of advice you would give to students looking into forensics? So, first of all, you should definitely separate the reality from the fiction of it because, again, a lot of people see it and they're just like, wow, that looks so glamorous, and I'm definitely going to go into that and drive these Hummers around all day and wear these fancy suits. But again, yeah, it isn't like that. I'd also suggest taking advantage of the, I don't know what it's called now, but the, actually I can't, what? Yes, Dark College Now. Of course we did that name. Well, it was a different name when I did it. But I suggest taking advantage of the Search College Now program, and taking one of the classes over at Tech that I took, if they're still offered, of course. Because, again, not only were they really interesting and gave me a lot of information about the topic, but they also kind of got me a little prepared for college, in a way.
Could you go a bit more into detail for what college course you're planning to get a master's degree in?
The question was, or could I elaborate a little bit more on the college or the master's degree I'm planning on going into? So forensic biochemistry, as I said, is kind of a more specific version of forensic science. It's based more on the lab, rather than kind of a more overview thing. So, for example, I'd be learning more specifically to operate like a gas chromatographer and all of the other associated machines in the lab. So it's just a little bit of a more fancy name. There isn't too much more to it, but
I'm wondering why you chose to do lab work versus like field work, or what the process was for deciding that.
the question was, why did I choose to go into lab work rather than field work? So one of the more like odd reasons was that if I wanted to go into, like, for example, crime scene investigation, I would have to do a 2-year degree, just to get that the police certification, because I'd be working more closely with the police rather than a secretary. And also, I just feel like I do better. I do really well with kind of those repetitive things, and you'd be doing a lot of repetitive things with that. It's also just, I guess I decided on it randomly. There's not much that went into it. Like that.
Have you ever heard of body rehydrating?
The question was, have I ever heard of body rehydrating? I have not. It sounds interesting, very much. I will look into that. And it's for water.
I feel like I should also ever. It's like, were they for help identify some of the like anonymous deaths, or what they hope to use it for is to be able to identify victims or perpetrators of the crime based on their body markings after they pass, like tattoos and stuff. It's really cool.
That sounds interesting.
I was wondering, since technology keeps improving, and you mentioned that maybe is part of the, even though it's a positive thing, that's maybe part of the problem with the DNA backlog, that we got better and better at collecting,
Yeah.
but we're not getting better and better at actually getting through the log. Do you have ideas about improving that, or suggestions or predictions for how that might change?
So the question was relating to the DNA backlog. Do I have any ideas on how to improve the process or like get it to work better? Well, I will say that if $1 billion plan from the government can't do anything, I don't think I can. And yes, that is what they're investing into it as of late. It's pretty bad.
Can I ask a follow-up? Does that, what does their expensive plan entail then? Is it more employees to do it, or more equipment to work on it, or?
The question was a follow-up. What is that money going into, basically? I didn't do much research into that.
Oh.
I just kind of accidentally stumbled across that fact while looking for different like terms. So I could get back to you on that one. It is probably though working on more advancements and more maybe building space and employees and tech.
Is there any specific lab you're looking into, and any kind of specific, like, kind of crime intensity that you want out of your work, like, from murders to theft?
The question was, are there any specific labs I'm looking at, and what intensity of crime I'd be looking at doing as well? So, there aren't really any specific labs I'm looking into. I'm a very go with the flow person, and I'm just kind of going to get my degree and see if whichever one I can get into. Again, though, hopefully around Wisconsin. And as for intensity of crime, I'd say anything. I mean, murder is like that big woodsy thing where it's like, I'd probably only do a few in my career unless I'm in Chicago or Milwaukee or something. And also, kind of going off of that, I want to specialize in blood spatter analysis. And you really don't find blood spatter analysis in theft, unless it's a really violent theft, but, you know.
How did you get interested in blood spatter analysis? It's so cool.
I don't really know. I should see this. Same question. The question was, how did I get interested in blood spatter analysis? Again, I really don't know. It's just, I like the angles and stuff and kind of the visual aspect too. Yeah.
Have you seen Dexter?
The question was, have I seen Dexter? Yes, I have. Quite a bit of it.
I've seen it like 3 times.
Nice. Yeah, I do like that. Oh, yeah.
How many forensic labs are in the state of Wisconsin?
The question was, how many forensic labs are in the state of Wisconsin? I know that there are 3 state crime labs. I know there's one in Madison, and the other two I forget. But as for all of the crimes in general, or the crimes labs in general, I wouldn't know an exact number.
Does the increase in technology and the fact that people get better at deciphering crimes affect the crime rate itself?
The question was, does the fact that crime analysis and lab work and stuff affect the crime rate. Since I didn't look into that part of that, I wouldn't know exactly. I would guess it would increase the arrest rate. I think it did actually. But yeah, I don't know much about that. So.
Did you look into the crime rate in Wisconsin?
The question was, have I looked into the crime rates in Wisconsin? I did a while ago, but that wasn't related to this project necessarily. During the project, I didn't.
Very good. You've got time to find a task. Finish up.